What's up everybody and welcome back to another Lorcana video. It's your boy Skinner. Sorry it's been a minute since my last video. As you know, I love coming up with fun brews and trying to make them competitive, but I felt like towards the end of the set 1 metagame it had shifted to a place where Amber Steel was very dominant, and truthfully I just wasn't interested in creating content around that single deck. However, we have a brand new set 2 Rise of the Floodborn. It's just a few days away and we've already gotten the chance to see the full card pool, which is incredibly exciting. I won't be reviewing those cards today, but I know there's tons of amazing Lorcana content creators that will definitely be having videos on that, so definitely be checking those out. Instead, today I wanted to bring you my first ever set 2 brew that I've been working on and likely will continue to work on. As you may know, I was a very big fan of Emerald decks in set 1 and particularly love to pair it with evasives or Sapphire ramp strategies. While there are no evasives in today's deck, unfortunately, it does have some similarities to my set 1 Emerald Sapphire deck, but we have lots of new toys to play with, so let's get into this deck list. So this is my Pete Cantrip deck. For those unfamiliar with the term cantrip, it's a card game term that stems from Magic the Gathering, referring to cheap costed cards that draw a card to replace themselves when you play them. This deck is able to take advantage of those cheap actions to fuel my favorite new card in the set. It may be surprising not to see any Cuscos in a green deck, but I've actually found that Pete does a lot of the same things that Cusco did, and sometimes even more. Starting us off in our 1 cost, we have 4 copies of Flynn Rider, 4 copies of Develop Your Brain, 4 copies of Improvise, and 4 copies of Popsicle. Flynn Rider is a 1/3 stat line, which previously was exclusive to Minnie Mouse and Olaf. He's able to churn out some early lore, but it's mostly in the deck just to give us a body to play on turn 1 if needed. Develop Your Brain and Improvise are both in this deck essentially for the same purpose. Both are actions that will draw us a card and move us through our deck quicker, and when we play them in multiples or alongside other actions in the deck, they will trigger our Pete, which can be really powerful. And then we have one of my personal favorite cards in the set, Popsicle. This card may not look like much at first, but it's actually incredibly solid. It allows us to draw a card whenever we play it, and it has synergies with other cards in the decks that we'll get into. It also doubles as a way to remove damage from a character, which can sometimes be relevant with cards like Beast, who want to be attacking multiple times per turn. On turn 2, we've got 4 copies of Phil and 4 copies of Cruella. Phil should be familiar to those who have been playing the game. He's a solid 3 attack on turn 2 that provides support, which is also very relevant in a deck like this where we're trying to increase our character's power. His downside is obviously having 1 willpower, but we do play Cogsworth in this deck, which provides resist and can help our Phil stay safe from a big Tinkerbell. And then we have Cruella, which does not provide support on its own, but it does give us a 3/2 stat line on turn 2, which is very powerful. We could use it to attack into things like Simba and Eric, but also into evasive characters, which is a huge bonus. Pongo has not stopped crying since this card was revealed. Getting into our 3 drops, we have 3 copies of Alice, 4 copies of Judy Hopps, and 4 copies of Detective Mickey. Detective Mickey continues to be my favorite turn 3 play from Sapphire, but there is some debate over whether this card could be replaced by the new Winnie the Pooh card. Personally, I do like that Mickey provides us with this ink right away, but I could see maybe Pooh if we're trying to make room for more uninkables. This card allows us to essentially skip our turn 4 and immediately start playing our powerful turn 5 cards. Next we have Judy Hopps, which is another new addition to our Sapphire decks. Judy serves as a solid stat line who can quest for 2, but she also doubles as item removal, which is great in a pinch. The player who banishes the item does get to draw a card, but if it's between drawing a card or losing to that powerful item, it's nice to have the option. However, Judy's real power comes from destroying our own Popsicles to draw ourselves a card when it comes into play, essentially netting us 2 cards off the Popsicle. And then we have Alice, who I currently think is one of the most powerful legendaries in this set. Her 1/4 stat line for 3 is solid, but it's her abilities that make her shine. She provides all the characters around her with support, and when she reaches 10 power, she will quest for 5. She has some really crazy potential turns in combination with Pete or Beast, which I will get into. We also have Mother Knows Best in our 3 cost as an action. This card continues to be powerful, especially singing it off of Mickey on turn 4, and then slamming a powerful 5-drop into play. It creates huge tempo swings and continues to be solid in testing, so we totally skip our 4-drop in this deck and go right into turn 5, where we have 4 copies of Maleficent, 3 copies of Cogsworth, and 4 copies of Beast, and then 4 copies of Let It Go. Maleficent continues to be a solid 5-drop to play on curve, as her 3 lore and 6 willpower really adds a lot of pressure to the board. She also gives us 3 strength, which is decent when we have Alice to give her support. Next we have Cogsworth, which is a new card that I know many people are excited to see, but not very excited to play against, I'm sure. He's a solid 2/5 stat line that has ward, making him very tough to remove. Cogsworth provides resist to all your other characters, making them 1 step harder to deal with. Having a Maleficent in play with 6 willpower and resist allows her to survive things like Maui, which is no joke. And then last is my favorite card in the whole set, in the heart of the deck, Pete. He's a 3/4, which already gives him a better stat line than Cusco. He has ward like Cusco, and he's inkable. Whenever you play an action, Pete will grow, and when you reach 7 strength, he quests for 4. Being able to play a 1-drop action on your turn, followed by Mother Knows Best, and then questing for 4 is a very strong turn, but things get really crazy when Alice gives him support, allowing for a potential 9-point quest between the 2 of them. I know a lot of people are looking at cards like Vicious Betrayal, a single action that can activate Pete. This is something that I'll definitely be experimenting with in the future, but I do like that the actions I'm playing draw us a card. Vicious does not, making it a pretty dead card off the top late game. And then of course we have 4 copies of Let It Go, which not only works with Pete, but continues to be a premium removal in this ink color. It can be sang off of all of our powerful 5-drops and is a staple in Sapphire decks in general. Then topping us off, we have Genie and Beast. Genie is a classic from set 1 that continues to be powerful in set 2. Being able to bounce something back to your opponent's hand can lead to some very powerful tempo plays, and worst case, he's still a 3/4 evasive body that can quest for 2. And then we have Beast, who is another new legendary in this set. It may seem obvious to pair him with steel decks due to the ability to ready himself whenever your opponent's character is damaged. However, in combination with Alice, this gives us a character who can quest multiple times and provide multiple support triggers if Alice is in play. 4 lore and 8 strength is nothing to scoff at if he's able to quest twice, and depending on the board, it could be even crazier than that. Even without Alice though, Beast is a solid body who can help us attack into multiple characters on a turn, and can be hard to attack back because he will ready himself as soon as your opponent crashes in their first character. Overall, a very solid addition to this deck. Some cards that didn't make the cut but I'm still keeping my eyes on would be cards like John Silver and 7-drop Hades. Both these cards were very powerful in set 1 and definitely still are, but until I'm able to find room for everything, they're just going to have to sit on the sidelines. Now that you're caught up on the list itself, let's hop into some gameplay. Alrighty, so in this game we are going second. My main thought process here when we're doing mulligans is essentially we're trying to find Mickey Mouse. We really want to be ramping into turn 5. I do decide to keep the Phil here, obviously, because he is a good 2-drop to have, as well as Judy Hopps, just in case we do get Popsicle in our opening hand. We want to be able to draw something on turn 3. Judy's also great, just in case we don't hit the Mickey, we'll still have something to play on turn 3, so I end up keeping her there. Alright, so it looks like our opponent is on green steel, which can be scary, and it's definitely one of the decks that people are talking about in this new set. We go ahead and ink Improvise on turn 1, and we go ahead and play our Improvise to draw a card. Our opponent plays nothing on turn 2. We actually go ahead and ink our Phil here in favor of Cruella. I do like that Cruella is able to attack into Captain Hook when Phil would die if he does so. And they surprise us with Prince John. So not only is it a green steel deck, but it is a discard deck, so that's very interesting. We end up just running out Judy Hopps here. She doesn't have any target, unfortunately, but she does give us a body that can quest for 2. And then we just go ahead and pass turn so that we don't lose anything to Hook. Our opponent plays Daisy, a very powerful 4-cost card that is going to make us discard cards really soon. We run out Alice and go ahead and ink our Develop Your Brain. I do decide to quest here, which could be incorrect. However, I'm just looking for a way to get that Hook off the board so that way we can go ahead and quest with our other characters. He does hit us with a Hypnotize here, which we will discard our Beast since he is a 6-cost. And he draws 2 cards off John, which is incredibly good. Then he goes ahead and quests with Daisy, making us discard yet another card. I end up discarding the Maleficent here just because both of my other 2 characters have Ward, which I value more than Maleficent's stats at the moment. He draws yet another card off the John, which is really good, and then continues to draw cards off Cinderella. So our opponent drawing a ton of cards here. We go ahead and ink Phil and add Cogsworth to the board here, which really changes things immediately. Now everything has resist, making his attacks a lot more awkward. Captain Hook is not able to get the same value he was getting before. We decide to run our Cruella into Daisy, which does not die anymore thanks to Cogsworth. And then we go ahead and quest for 3. Suddenly, what was a really bad board state is actually really good thanks to Cogsworth. If Hook decides he wants to trade with our Cruella, we're okay with that, and he cannot kill anything else. We get Hypnotized for our last card, drawing them yet another 2 cards, which is really crazy. And now we're just playing off the top of the deck. Thankfully, our board presence is pretty strong here, although they do have some guys in play. Most of them are pretty weak, so I don't hate our position here, but our opponent obviously has 5 cards in hand, which is a little scary for us. Our opponent does choose to take out our Cruella with Hook and passes the turn. We draw Mickey off the top. Not a great draw, but decent enough. I decided to quest out here since he really doesn't have a way to deal with anything. The only thing I'm really scared of is the big Cinderella shift, but if he has that, he could attack my ready characters anyway, so there's no point in keeping them ready. I just need to go ahead and quest here. He does slam down Beast instead, which is a little scary for us. We draw Popsicle, my favorite card. We go ahead and draw off Popsicle and get ourselves another Cruella, which we're able to add to the board. I decided to just quest with 2 characters here because I don't want Beast to just gobble up our whole board. I'm okay with giving these up in favor of getting just a little bit more lore and putting us closer to lethal, so I just quest with these 2 characters. Our opponent does play a Mother Knows Best, which bounces our Alice back to hand. And then as expected, he does chomp up 2 of our guys. Lucifer then comes in and takes out the last card in our hand, so once again we are with no cards in hand, and he gets to draw yet another card. We play yet another Cruella. We've drawn a lot of these Cruellas this game. I finally get rid of his Prince John since he decided to turn it sideways. I'm very happy to do so. And I actually take no damage off of it thanks to Cogsworth, which I really like. This also still creates a very awkward trade for him. If he wants to trade Beast, he can, but the other 2 characters cannot cleanly deal with Cruella, once again due to Cogsworth, so you can see just the power of Cogsworth in this game. He decides to instead quest with the Beast for 2, and then go ahead and sing Grab Your Swords, which does not kill my characters. We're living in a crazy, beautiful world now that I don't die to Grab Your Swords. And he plays Belle, who everybody was saying was going to be the craziest card ever, and we'll find out. So we play Improvise here just to go ahead and cycle a card. And we draw into Judy Hopps, which is a great draw because we can go ahead and get rid of our Popsicle and draw yet another card while adding a body to the board that can quest for 2. And we draw Genie. Really good draw there. He hits us with Hypnotize as expected, so we don't even get to keep our beautiful Genie. He goes right back to the discard pile, and our opponent at this point has drawn about 20 cards off Prince John. I draw a fill off the top, which is not exactly what we want to see, and you can see the game starting to get a little closer, although I was very surprised it was even this close considering that he's drawn 10 card plus Prince John, and we have not. My opponent goes to 17 and plays yet another Beast, and it's looking very grim for us here. But we draw Mother Knows Best, which is a great draw here, so we go ahead and play the Mother Knows Best, bouncing the Beast back to their hand. We're able to crash into this Belle, which everybody said was amazing, and discard the cards that we don't have. And then quest for 2, putting us at lethal. And now our opponent just has no way to deal with this Cogsworth. They can't bounce it, they cannot get rid of it, they can't attack into it. Our opponent goes to 19, plays John Silver, which would have been lethal, but unfortunately I do have Ward, therefore I hit him with the Well Played, and I go ahead and just show them that I had the Genie, and they scoop it up and give me the first game. Alrighty, so in this next game, I really like this game, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. So we go ahead and mull pretty much everything here. Once again, we are going second. We do keep Flynn Rider just in case we don't have a 1-drop, but truthfully, he's really just there as ink because normally we'd rather play Popsicle, which we just drew. Our opponent inks Shere Khan, so they are on Red Steel. So Red Steel, another new archetype that I believe is going to be very relevant in this new metagame. So let's see how our deck does. We go ahead and ink Flynn Rider because I do value drawing the card and cycling through our deck more so we can get to Mickey, which we do draw, which is amazing, so very good. Our opponent plays Go the Distance here just to draw a card and goes ahead and quests for 1. We do run out another popsicle just to draw an additional card. We go ahead and ink, develop your brain, and we run out a Flynn Rider just to have a body on board. The ink a Maui, which we're very happy to see, and run out Tinkerbell. This card can be a little scary for us because we don't know if they have the shift in hand. However, we stick with the game plan and run out Mickey Mouse Detective here to ramp us up to 4. And then I decide to go ahead and quest for 1. If he does run into Tinkerbell, the Tinkerbell cannot shoot and kill Mickey, so not too worried about that. He does play out an Aladdin here, which takes away all of our hard work, and then he decides to go ahead and use both of his characters to attack into Flynn Rider, which I'm okay with. I do decide to bounce Aladdin back to his hand here. I just don't want to risk him playing a Shift Aladdin on the following turn. So I set him back by going ahead and singing it with Mickey Mouse. And then developing a Cogsworth on board, which is very strong. Suddenly his attacks are not so great into Mickey anymore. He does play out the Aladdin again, which is okay. We have no lore for him to steal this time. Our opponent does go ahead and run in Simba here, which I'm sure was a mistake. He most likely did not realize that I have resist. And then he follows it up with an attack with Tinkerbell, which only puts 1 damage on my Mickey Mouse, which is no problem with me, and I'm sure it was just not a great turn for him. I decided to sing a Let It Go here, just again to keep him off of shifting into Aladdin, which seems like a pretty obvious game plan he has right now, considering that he keeps playing out the same Aladdin. And then we run out of Mickey Mouse just to ramp us a little bit further into the game. We use one of these popsicles just to heal up our Mickey Mouse a bit, and go ahead and quest for an additional 1. I unfortunately did leave myself open to Maui here by singing with Cogsworth, so my opponent goes ahead and punishes me here for that. I decided to go ahead and play our big beast here, since he is a body that we can use to clean up the board in time, and we go ahead and run both of our Mickeys into this Tinkerbell. Our opponent finally plays the Aladdin that I knew he had in his hand all along. He's been trying to play it for quite some time. And then goes ahead and plays Grab Your Swords. So we have very powerful cards here, Maui, Aladdin, and Grab Your Swords. So you can see Red Steel really being very powerful. I decided to play out the Genie here just to set him back yet another turn and bounce the Aladdin back to his hand. I apologize, it's a little hard to see here because I do open up the discard pile, but my opponent does ink that Aladdin because I guess he just said, forget it, this Aladdin is never going to happen, so he goes ahead and inks it and plays a Tinkerbell instead, which is very interesting. I quest with Genie since he's not able to run into it with Maui, and then I go ahead and play 2 Alices to the board, which actually gives each of them support, which is very strong. I'm a little worried here that my opponent may have a Be Prepared, but he doesn't. He actually plays Tinkerbell instead, dealing 1 damage to everything. But fortunately for us, Maui still cannot attack into Genie because he has evasive. I decide here to go ahead and finally heal up this beast. I don't like that he's in Grab Your Swords range, so I go ahead and give him a little bit of health, just so that if he does play Grab Your Swords, none of my stuff will die. And then I go ahead and quest with Genie 1 more time. Followed by running out my Pete and passing the turn. So now, believe it or not, if my opponent decides to attack, I have lethal. I know it doesn't seem like it, I'm only at 5 lore, but this is the power of Alice and Pete, which you will see momentarily. He does put me down to 4, but still gives me lethal here. So my opponent just does not think I have lethal, he does not understand the power of Alice and Pete, and he goes ahead and shifts on top. So I did speed up this turn a little bit because it does take me some time to figure out exactly how I'm going to beat my opponent here. I go ahead and quest with the Beast, providing Alice with the first buff. I run the Genie into Tinkerbell, which readies my Beast, allowing me to activate him again, putting us at 8 lore. I then quest with Pete, who is now able to pump up Alice so she can quest for 5. I quest with Alice, who's able to give us 5 lore, putting us at 15. And then because we have 2 Alices in play, they give each other support. So Alice can pass her power right over to the other Alice, and we hit them for the last 5. A perfect 20. So we hit 16 lore in 1 turn, which is absolutely absurd. Obviously, this is a very specific scenario here, but as you can see, very, very powerful combination. There's so many different deck ideas that I want to try out. This is just the first of many. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a great time this week trying to find product, and I hope you find it for cheap because I know that I'm going to be searching myself to try to find some stuff. We're on the road to 1,000 followers, guys. We're at about 600 followers right now. I would love to get to 1,000 soon, so if you guys could hit that like and subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please sure to hit me up on Twitter and show me all your brews. I definitely want to try some new decks out. Show me what you're working with. I would love to see it. But other than that, guys, I'll see you on the next video. Be safe. Peace.